In this video, we will follow the entire history of German and Soviet tanks, from World War I to the end of the Cold War. The same hangar, the same angle and lighting, to ensure a fair comparison. Germany is on the left. The USSR is on the right. Let's go. Before you is the A-7V, the only German tank produced in series during the First World War. It is a huge armored box for trenches. The crew numbered up to 18 people, and very few of these machines were produced, about 20. Therefore, the A-7V is important not for its mass production, but for being Germany's first real step in tank building. Why is there no comparison? During this period, the USSR did not have its own mass-produced tanks of a comparable class. The T-34 was a rare Soviet medium tank from the early 1930s. Only a very limited number were produced, around 25, and it never actually saw combat, but its importance lies elsewhere. It was one of the first experiments by the Kharkov factory, which would later produce the BT, T-34, and post-war vehicles. Why no comparison? At this point, Germany has no honest serial analog in terms of role/era. The BT-2 marked the beginning of the fast-moving BT line. It was a cavalry tank. Speed and maneuverability were prioritized over armor. The series' distinguishing features were its Christie suspension and the ability to move on wheels. Switching modes required stopping and took time. The BT-2 is important as a platform that led to the BT-5/BT-7 and provided experience for future concepts. Why no comparison? In the early 1930s, Germany did not have a mass-produced tank with a comparable maximum speed philosophy. The T-37A was one of the world's first mass-produced amphibious tanks. It was designed for reconnaissance and crossing rivers without bridges, a separate branch of development in which the USSR was particularly active. The vehicle became a symbol of the idea of reconnaissance plus water. Why no comparison? Germany had no direct mass-produced equivalent of a floating tank of this class during the same period. The T-35 was a mass-produced 5-turret heavy tank, a true land battleship. The idea was simple. More turrets meant more firepower. In practice, its complexity and size made it temperamental and vulnerable. But as a concept, it was very spectacular and perfectly illustrated the doctrines of the 1930s. Why no comparison? Germany did not have a mass-produced 5-turret tank. The concept is unique. On the left is the Panzer I Ausf, essentially a training light tank. It is armed only with machine guns and protected by very thin armor, roughly 7 to 13 millimeters. On the right is the Soviet T-18, an early tank as well, but already equipped with a 37-millimeter gun and armor up to about 16 millimeters. In a frontal engagement, firepower matters more than armor here. The T-18 can theoretically destroy the Panzer I, while the Panzer I has almost no chance against armored targets and relies on close range or vulnerable components. In terms of speed, both are slow and represent first-generation tank design. Conclusion: the Panzer I is about training and organization, while the T-18 is an early attempt at a true gun-armed combat tank. The Ausf B version improves mobility with a stronger engine, but the core problem remains: machine gun armament and very light armor. The T-18 still holds the advantage thanks to its 37-millimeter gun. In a direct fight, the Soviet tank has the upper hand in firepower, while the German tank performs better only in coordination and maneuver within units. Conclusion: T-18 wins on raw combat capability. Panzer I represents Germany's organizational foundation rather than battlefield strength. The T-38 is a development of the T-37A, the same class of light amphibious reconnaissance vehicle. The purpose of this block is to show that the USSR developed a floating line, relying on rivers and swamps as natural boundaries. Why no comparison? Germany did not have a comparable mass line of floating tanks during this era. This matchup shows two completely different philosophies. The Panzer 35, AT, carries a 37mm gun, moderate armor up to about 25mm, and balanced mobility. The BT-5 emphasizes speed above all else, reaching over 70 kilometers per hour. Armed with a powerful 45mm gun, but protected by very thin armor. In frontal combat, the BT-5 has the advantage in gun power, while the Panzer 35T benefits from better control and stability as a firing platform. Conclusion: BT-5 is about speed and striking first, while the Panzer 35T is a more controlled and disciplined early war tank. The Panzer II AOSFC relies on a fast-firing 20mm automatic cannon, effective against light vehicles but limited against armored tanks. The T-26 Model 1933 carries a 45mm gun, one of the most powerful weapons in its class at the time, though its armor remains thin. In a frontal duel, the larger caliber gives the T-26 a clear advantage, while the Panzer II relies on mobility and rate of fire. Conclusion: Germany emphasizes tempo and maneuver, while the Soviet design focuses on heavier firepower. The later T-26 features improved armor layout, but keeps the same powerful 45mm gun. The Panzer II remains unchanged, and the gap in firepower becomes more obvious. By the late 1930s, the Panzer II is increasingly outmatched in direct tank combat. Conclusion: T-26 remains dangerous due to its gun, while Panzer II begins to fall behind as a frontline tank. The Panzer 38T offers reliability, a 37mm gun, and solid ergonomics for its crew. The BT-7 counters with extreme speed and a 45mm gun, but sacrifices protection. In battle, the BT-7 can strike hard and fast, while the Panzer 38T provides better control and survivability for its crew. Conclusion: BT-7 excels in maneuver warfare. Panzer 38T shines as a stable early war workhorse. The Panzer III AOSFE introduces a true medium tank layout with a 5-man crew and excellent command efficiency. The T-26 still carries a stronger 45mm gun, but suffers from outdated ergonomics. While the T-26 hits harder, the Panzer III operates faster in combat thanks to superior crew coordination. Conclusion: Soviet firepower versus German battlefield efficiency. With the 50mm gun, the Panzer III becomes a dedicated anti-tank platform. The T-28, with its multiple turrets and 76mm gun, is designed for infantry support rather than tank duels. In direct combat, the Panzer III is more precise, while the T-28 excels against fortifications. Conclusion: Anti-tank specialization versus breakthrough support. The KV-2 is a siege tank designed to destroy pillboxes and fortifications. Its enormous turret and 152mm howitzer look intimidating, but this power came at a price: a tall silhouette, heavy turret, and mobility issues. This is a single-purpose vehicle designed to break through fortifications, not to engage in speed duels. Why no comparison? Germany had no direct serial analog of a heavy tank howitzer for assaulting fortifications during the same period. The T-40 was an amphibious reconnaissance tank, the last pre-war model in this line. It was significantly more advanced than earlier amphibious vehicles and was designed to serve as the eyes of the troops, to swim across, enter the rear, and report on enemy movements. Why there is no comparison? Germany did not have a mass-produced equivalent of a floating reconnaissance tank during this period. The upgraded Panzer 38, HT, gains stronger frontal armor, but keeps its 37mm gun. The T-70 carries a 45mm gun and similar armor but suffers from a 2-man crew, overloading the commander. Combat effectiveness depends heavily on who fires first. Conclusion: German protection and ergonomics versus Soviet firepower with crew compromises. Both tanks are lightly armed with 20mm cannons and minimal armor. They are not designed for tank duels, but for reconnaissance and support roles. Conclusion: mobility and numbers matter more than armor or gun power here. The Panzer III AOSF. J brings a long 50mm gun and improved armor. The T-34 introduces sloped armor and a powerful 76mm gun, changing tank warfare forever. German optics and crew efficiency compete against Soviet armor geometry and versatility. Conclusion: precision and coordination versus revolutionary armor design. In 1941, the appearance of the T-34 forced Germany to rethink everything. The rules of tank warfare had changed. But this was only the beginning.